Hey everybody, and welcome back to Sammy's Stories. Today we got some great stories from r/ChoosingBeggars, starting with Dine and Dashers who lose their mind when they get confronted about paying, and thus all logic goes out the window. My coworker Sarah, name changed, had a walkout last night. All walkouts suck, but this one was very different. The table that walked out included three 20-something-year-olds, two guys and a girl. The girl happened to go to high school with my coworker who was serving them. The two spent a good portion of the night catching up, having a good time, and everything was going smoothly. Ordering around $80 worth of food and drinks, the table walked out on their bill, and Sarah was pissed. Since we scan and save IDs at my bar, we permanently flag anyone who has walked out on their tab and ban them from re-entry. Unless of course they come back to pay their tab and apologize for their lapse in judgment. The ID saving system is also linked with other bars in the city that use the same brand, so if someone were to be banned from our bar, all other participating bars would be notified and able to ban them as well. Sarah figured she'd message the girl on Facebook and let her know that she should come back to pay her bill to save her from that major inconvenience, instead of telling her that she was a huge piece of crap, but my coworker kept it cordial. The girl never responded to my friend. The next day, however, the girl who walked out called the restaurant asking to speak to the manager. My manager, a seasoned veteran who doesn't take crap from anyone, answered the phone. Every morning he reads over the log from the night before, so he knew everything that went down, including the walkout. However, he wasn't aware that Sarah had messaged this girl on Facebook. The girl proceeded to log a complaint about a server who waited on her the previous night. Your server Sarah found me on social media and harassed me. It was really unprofessional and I'm super creeped out by it. You shouldn't employ people who stalk their customers and send them threatening and offensive messages. My manager, somewhat shocked at first, was about to find out more information about this cyber harassment, but remembered that Sarah was the server with the walkout from the night before. I apologize if you felt uncomfortable by one of our server's actions, but harassment sounds unusual for Sarah. She's one of our best servers. What exactly did Sarah say in these messages? She said I need to come in and pay my tab or she would ban me from every bar in the city and I'd never be able to go and eat out again. My manager paused. What do you think she meant by pay your tab? Well, we didn't pay for our tab. Completely blown away, my manager didn't know how to respond. So, I'm going to need you to pay for your tab. And here is where this girl went from a complete idiot to a complete idiot trying to be a delusional CB. Well, I'm not going to be paying for a tab now. No way. I'm not going to give money to a restaurant who employs people who harass customers. I'm honestly so scared and creeped out that I'm going to call the police. Actually, the only way I won't call the police is if you promise you're going to fire this server. So, you're not going to pay the tab you walked out on? No. Are you even listening to me? You guys should be paying me for what I went through. You should be lucky that all I'm asking for is for this server to be fired, so I won't call the police. To buy some time to unpack the crazy my manager just heard, he told this chick that he'd walk it over with his supervisors and he would call her back. Sarah happened to be working that day, so he asked to see the Facebook messages. Sarah sent this girl exactly one message that said, "Hey, you walked out on your tab with me. Can you come in and pay it tomorrow? Just make sure you come in because the ID system will ban you from our place and maybe some other bars if you don't pay." My manager then called this psycho back. "Ma'am, I just read the messages Sarah sent you on Facebook. Sarah was trying to help you. We ban people from our bar who walk out on their tabs. So, when would you like to pay for the $80 plus an added, let's say, 20% gratuity?" No, Sarah should have never messaged me in the first place. My social media profile is private. I want her fired. Well, that's not happening. We will be banning you and your friends if you don't pay for your bill. The girl was screaming at this point. I'm calling the police for harassment and piracy. You looked at my private messages. I'm not paying. My manager, laughing in complete shock. Okay, go for it. Tell them we'd love to talk to them too. Enjoy your day. If you look out of the window right now, you'd see the girl's logic flying past. What a crazy situation walking out on your tab, thus stealing and thinking you have any form of power against them. Lunatic. I think it's always so funny when the dumbest criminals think they can rely on the authorities to help them when they are caught in their own little mishap. Like a thief getting robbed and calling the police to get his baseball cards back. Insane. I feel for anyone working in the service industry having to deal with people like these. Sometimes there is just no winning when reasoning with delusionally entitled people. In our next story, Opie has to deal with some delusional movers that want payment when they didn't even move anything. A few weeks ago, I decided to hire 3 moving guys for a few hours to move as much as they could into a pod that I rented. I mostly wanted them to get a few large furniture items from upstairs down into the pod, as it's just myself, my 16-year-old son, and pregnant wife. They were scheduled to show up at 10 AM and work 2 hours till noon, at which point I had a code I would give them and they would get paid for their work. Super easy. Have used the service before. I took off and got a trailer for my Jeep in case there was any overflow and to take things we would need before the pod arrived. I get back to the house at 9:30 AM, 30 minutes before they are set to arrive, and they had been there for 15 minutes already talking to my wife. This is how it went down the moment I walked in the door. Hi, so these mover guys have been lecturing me for 15 minutes on how they can't do their job correctly unless they have shrink wrap for the couch. Well, I got 4 packages of moving blankets and that should be more than enough to cover things in the pod. Yeah, well, we can't guarantee things won't get scratched a little if we don't have shrink wrap. That's fine. I mostly hired you guys to get the heavy stuff in the pod and pack what you can in during the time you are here. Okay, boss. He then gives me this weird salute. He then tells his 2 guys, both young dudes there, to just move stuff and get the job done. To move stuff downstairs, as I had hired them to move heavy stuff downstairs. I would say a solid 10 minutes go by before my wife comes storming into the garage, where I was packing the last minute items. She was visibly mad and at her end's wit. They said they won't move the gun safe until we open it and prove there are no guns in there. I had locked the key in an ammo box that was already packed. Just tell them to leave it and we'll do it later. It is not a high quality one and one person can move it with a dolly very easily. Think like a drying machine. 2 seconds later, the head moving guy comes storming out to the garage as well, visibly flustered, and says he can't move anything more because of hostile working conditions. Apparently, my wife said in passing that we hired 2 high school kids one time and they moved all our stuff in a few hours, and he thought that was the biggest affront to his abilities that she could have possibly done. Yeah, I'm going to need cash or check up front to finish the job, or I'm going to have to charge my 2-hour minimum and leave. Conveniently, it was the same amount as if they did the work. Well, I will pay you after you do your job, through the moving service as agreed upon. I'm assuming at this point he looks for any excuse to cut the middleman and get paid directly, and does this often. Well, at this point, after working in these conditions and lacking the proper supplies needed, shrink wrap, I can't complete this job and will need my 2-hour minimum. I can see the pod from where I'm standing, empty, and they had been there for 45 minutes. You guys haven't even loaded a single thing in the pod. You've been moving things from room to room and telling my pregnant wife she is hostile and unprofessional. Listen, I can see you're stressed, and who wouldn't be when moving? But we can't work with her in there and lacking the correct supplies. Look man, you can finish the job I hired you to do and you will get paid at the end of the job, or you can get off my property and I'll hire someone else. That is actually called theft of service, and the police will come out to arrest you if you don't pay my 2-hour minimum. That's not how that works, and if you have your lawyer's contact info, I will be glad to let mine know he will have some work soon. Really, bro? You would pay a lawyer over just paying me and my guys my minimum? If you don't, we'll have to call the police for theft of service. He used this term like 80 times, assuming it works for him usually. Alright, you can get off my property, and I'm calling the police. I hoped that this was the clue he needed, that I wasn't going to give in to his scam, but he was sticking to his guns. Amazingly, the sheriff's department showed up in record time, about 20 minutes, and started talking to the guy. My wife insisted on talking to the officer since she had the most contact with the guy, so she did at first, and then me. Shockingly, not doing a job you were hired to do and then demanding money is not theft of service. The poor officer was out in front of our house talking to this guy for almost 2 hours, yelling at my neighbors about how cheap we are and demanding we pay his workers $100 since we held him up so long. After bringing us weird contracts saying I agreed to pay $100 because I demand the impossible, they finally left without a red cent. Now the funny thing is, if they had just done their job, they would have been out there an hour earlier with $200 in their pockets. We couldn't find any mover available on such a short notice, so I ended up moving everything myself. It took me all day and I was pretty much dead by the end of it. But that CB didn't get his money for nothing. I did learn not to hire the cheapest movers. The more you spend, the less crazy comes with it. Trying to clarify some things, OP posted the following edit. Since this seemed to be a running theme, here are some clarifications. 1. No, my wife is not a bee and I don't just lick her boots. She is an incredibly kind person and soft-spoken, but everyone has their breaking points. Moving and the movers, finding every little thing possible to blow up about, will eventually get even the most saintly of us flustered. If one pregnant woman can make 3 grown men walk off a job and demand payment, I don't know what to tell you. The gun safe was empty, but they couldn't verify because I had locked it and packed the key. Yes, I should have kept it open, but I didn't. The key acts as the opening handle. I told them I would move it myself and they agreed. I don't know what happened in the time frame of after the gun safe questions and my wife mentioning we hired 2 high school kids last time. I don't think she said it in a snide way, but in passing comparing our last move since they were being difficult. That's when everyone charged into the garage like it was some sort of principle and everyone was out to fight each other at the end of the pavement. That's all I got. Stop calling my wife a bee. It's always a gamble hiring people to do manual labor. You never know what you're gonna get. These guys clearly had no intention of actually moving anything, and I wouldn't be surprised if OP was correct about them using this trick a lot before to get easy payment. Personally, they should have hired me as a mover. I, for example, did a great job with the page you are on right now by moving the subscribe and like button to an easily accessible position below the video. I won't require any payment, but I would appreciate it if you guys subscribed and liked via those buttons. In our last story of the day, OP holds a contest for a free cover-up tattoo and encounters an insanely racist man. So I'm a tattoo artist. I have been for 17 years. I'm highly regarded in my area. This is just to say I know my business. Anyway, as part of an event my shop was participating in, I personally held a cover-up contest. I took submissions of crappy tattoos and the winner would get a free cover-up. There were a lot of good potential winners. Ex-wives' names, party tattoos from their teens, scarred indecipherable messes. But the winner was a gentleman who sheepishly approached me and lifted up his shirt to reveal a 9-inch by 9-inch line work swastika on his ribs. Well, I'm embarrassed to go to the beach, he said. I don't want my kids exposed to this stuff anymore, he said. I agreed. It would make a great portfolio piece for me. This was a challenging cover-up at any time due to the size and long black straight lines. We met after the event and discussed our plan. He wanted Vikings. Cool, I thought. I love Vikings and consider myself a pagan. Though I should have known better in a sense, I am very much a non-racist pagan, but there's definitely a bunch of racists out there and covering a swastika with a common racist dog whistle squeaked me a little wrong. Anyway, better a sweet-ass Viking ship than a massive symbol of hate and misery. So I set about designing. I hid the swastika lines in the boards of a ship, dark waves and the mast beams. geometric sail patterns, and the Vikings on board were hale and hearty and proud of their pillage. This would make a hell of a before and after. I was ready to go. So I'm booked for months, and it was half a year from consult to appointment. Tomorrow was our scheduled date. He called today. I'm relaying this secondhand, as our poor receptionist had to handle the man herself, but essentially, I don't want to cover up the swastika anymore. I'm proud of it. I want you to use your design in and around it to make it badass. The dude wanted me to pimp his swastika. We turn down racist stuff anytime it comes up, which honestly is not often at all. So for a multitude of reasons, I was not going to do that. We explained the contest was to fix mistakes of your past, not make them more awesome. I'm not going to put your shiny new swastika in my goddamn portfolio. Way to miss the entire point of the contest and to take the win from someone who actually wanted to move on from their mistakes. Anyway, the dude got all indignant about losing his win and losing it to two worth easily $900. We told him to pound sand. He says he's going to tell his buddies at the military school what kind of shop we are. 1. We're a shop that doesn't put up with racist stuff. 2. I don't want to work anyone he considers a buddy. And 3. I'm booked half a year. You and your handful of inbred trash friends are not going to make a lick of difference to my bottom line. And 4th, I was in the army. At MEPS, they strip you naked and check for offensive tattoos. His ass ain't in the military with a 9-inch swastika. Whew, felt good to get that off my chest. That's just insane. How can you go from wanting to change yourself to wanting to stay racist after just 6 months? Yikes. I commend OP for taking a stand and at least making the attempt of creating a cool design for him. Some people are just the worst. I am curious, do you guys have any tattoos that you regret? Be sure to let me know down in the comments and I'll be back for the next one. See ya!